Welcome to this explainer. You know, if you're an executive or an operations leader in a high-stakes field, think defense, aviation, healthcare, you already know the sheer astronomical costs of modernizing your tech. I mean, we're talking millions, sometimes billions, spent on advanced platforms, state-of-the-art simulators, the whole shebang. But despite all that massive capital investment, there's a really surprising fact that we just can't ignore. Human error is still a leading cause of operational failure. It turns out the ultimate unseen bottleneck in your operations is exactly the same as it's always been, the human brain. Because let's face it, those advanced platforms only deliver real organizational value when the human element can actually perform reliably under pressure. So today, we're going to explore how applied neuroscience is literally changing the game on how we measure, train, and optimize that human element.
Okay, let's dive into this. Where exactly do these cognitive bottlenecks hide in your operations? In these ultra-critical environments, performance is almost never derailed because someone lacks a basic technical skill, right? It's really shaped by cognitive load, stress, fatigue, and those agonizing split-second decisions. It's like the pilot staring right at a flashing warning light, but completely failing to process it. Or a surgeon who momentarily loses situational awareness during a really complex procedure. When your operators are interacting with incredibly complex tech under extreme pressure, where are they silently hitting their mental limits? Now, historically, these bottlenecks have been completely invisible. You literally only knew an operator was overwhelmed after an error happened, which in your world is usually way too late. And that kind of unpredictability, it's a massive risk to both your operational readiness and your bottom line.
Section 1. Making the invisible visible. Introducing Applied Neuroergonomics. So to solve this huge problem of unpredictable human performance, we really have to ditch this subjective guessing and start relying on hard data. And that is exactly where the pioneering work of Rotgans Research comes in. They've developed a suite of data-driven solutions specifically designed to take those hidden cognitive demands and make them entirely visible to leadership and training directors.
What's really interesting here is how neuroergonomics completely redefines our whole approach to human performance. We're not talking about strapping someone into a giant, sterile MRI machine in a hospital somewhere. No, this is about measuring actual brain function right in realistic training and operational contexts. We are taking neuroscience out of the abstract laboratory and turning it into a highly practical, objective business tool. By scanning brains right there in the simulator or the cockpit, your organization can identify exactly where automation helps, where it actually gets in the way, and where your operators are just getting flat out overloaded.
To actually pull this off, Rotgans Research uses a specific toolkit with 4 core practical methods. We've got neurotargeted training, AI needs identification, crew-level hyperscanning, and the performance benchmark method. Together, these 4 tools give you a completely objective overview of your organization's human-machine interaction and team readiness. Let's break these down and look at how the first method revolutionizes what is probably one of your biggest line-item expenses, training.
Section 2. Accelerating training efficiency, smarter, faster mastery. Look, training in high-stakes environments is notoriously slow and, quite frankly, incredibly expensive. The journey from a novice to a true expert takes years. But your operational demands, they usually mean you need more people trained in less time. So, the ultimate goal here is accelerating that training efficiency, getting to that smarter, faster mastery without ever lowering your rigorous standards.
And that all starts with the performance benchmark method. Because think about it, to know if a trainee is truly ready, you first have to know what ready actually looks like. By scanning the brains of your seasoned experts while they execute a task, you establish a definitive biological benchmark of expert performance. You're literally defining the exact desired pattern of mental activity for your specific operation. That gives you an objective baseline. Trainees can then be scanned and directly compared against this expert benchmark to assess their true operational readiness rather than just relying on a subjective evaluation from an instructor.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference here. Think of traditional training like a blunt instrument. It tends to treat a whole simulator exercise as equally difficult, meaning trainees run the scenario over and over, wasting incredibly valuable simulator time on parts of the task they've actually already mastered. Neuro-Targeted Training, or NTT on the other hand, that's a scalpel. By reading the trainee's brain data, it reveals exactly which parts of the task are creating excessive mental effort or uncertainty, and which parts are locked in. Then, you just direct your training resources exclusively at those specific cognitive weak points.
The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. As a trainee's brain activation patterns move closer to that expert performance baseline, mastery is objectively being achieved.
You don't have to guess if a trainee is getting better anymore, because you can literally watch their brain activation patterns align with the expert benchmark. The organizational value here is just massive. Your training ROI skyrockets because you're eliminating wasted simulator hours, you're identifying individual needs instantly, and ultimately you're certifying more operators in significantly less time.
Section 3. Justifying AI implementation. Deploying technology where it matters. All right, let's pivot to a major focus for pretty much every executive board right now: artificial intelligence. AI is the ultimate corporate buzzword, right? And the temptation is to introduce it just because it sounds great in theory, or, hey, the tech is there. But deploying AI without knowing exactly why you need it, that is a recipe for disaster. Actually, if it's implemented poorly, it can increase the cognitive load on your operators.
So how do we fix that? Well, this provides a really clear framework for smart AI adoption. Instead of just assuming a task needs AI, we use neuroergonomics to make an informed, data-driven decision. Step 1. We actually measure the operator's cognitive strain during real or simulated operations. Step 2. We identify the exact moments where those mental demands are dangerously approaching human limits. And then, Step 3. We introduce technological support only in those specific moments. This guarantees that your AI investments are deployed where they genuinely reduce the cognitive burden and improve safety, rather than just adding a bunch of unnecessary complexity to the dashboard.
Section 4. Optimizing team coordination, crew-level hyperscanning. Now, of course, we all know that modern critical operations, whether we're talking about a surgical theater, a flight deck, or a military command center, they don't rely on isolated individuals. They depend entirely on highly coordinated teams. Up to this point, we've really just looked at the individual operator. But how in the world do we measure the cognitive friction that happens between people?
Well, that brings us to crew-level hyperscanning. By scanning multiple operators at the exact same time, we extend neuroergonomics from the individual right up to the team level. Just think about a really complex handover of information. Standard observation might just show two people talking, but hyperscanning, it reveals the invisible reality. It shows us the exact moments of neural synchrony, or conversely, the sudden breakdowns in shared decision-making, like, say, a critical miscommunication during a really tense shift handover in a command center. Capturing these deep underlying team dynamics is literally impossible with standard observation, but it is absolutely vital for ensuring your teams won't fracture when the pressure suddenly spikes.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we've seen how applied neuroscience really takes the guesswork out of human performance, transforming it into a measurable, optimizable asset. By targeting your training, strategically implementing your AI, and actually mapping out those unseen team dynamics, you can ensure that the ultimate bottleneck is finally opened up. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to consider for your own organization. You have invested heavily in the absolute best technology the world has to offer. But are your human operators genuinely equipped, on a cognitive level, to maximize those investments when it matters most?